Hey, it's Azriel Lawless, and once again, you've taken the elevator and found yourself in Vella. And today, I'm very excited about our guest. It is Sable Jak. How are you doing today, Sable?
Oh, okay.
Excellent, excellent. I'm so happy that you could join me here. I know interviews aren't your thing, and I'm very happy that you said yes to doing a Lawless interview. So, thank you again. I was going to start you off same way I start everyone off, and that is asking you, when did you get started writing?
It was punishment. Literally. I was a real hyper kid. My uncle was a doctor, and he said, well, she's nervous, just keep her busy. So that's what my mom did, but nothing would work for punishment for me, because if it was like, if I got threatened with a spanking, it was like, fine, bring it on. It's over in a few minutes. So she devised this supreme punishment, she thought, by sitting me on a stool in the middle of a kitchen where, the hub of the house. I mean, she's my stepmom, Italian, therefore the hub of the house is in the kitchen.
Was it one of those stools, Sable, where you pulled out the steps?
No, it was just a stool.
Oh, just a regular stool? Okay, sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to picture you here. Okay.
That's okay. And I couldn't talk to anyone, and no one could talk to me. And the length that I was there depended on the infraction. Anywhere from a couple of minutes to 15 minutes. Most often 15 minutes with me. And so I just started making up stories. And one day, after a particularly long infraction, she said, okay, go play. And I said, well, I made up a story. Do you want to hear it? And you could just see the, oh, what the hell now am I going to do? Cross her face, because it was like, now how do I punish her? She's actually turning this into something fun. So she went down in the basement, and God only knows where she got it. It was this old beat up Remington portable typewriter from God knows when. And she had some paper, and she took me out to the gazebo, and she sat me down and put it in front of me. I mean, I was like 9, 8, whatever. And she stuffed paper in it, showed me how the keys work, and said, write it. I'll come back later. And it kept me out of her hair for a couple hours. But I mean, here's this little kid going thunk, 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 thunk. I have no idea what the story was about, but yeah, it's her fault. It was punishment.
Oh, that is awesome. That is really cool. I like that story. That's pretty original. So then did you, in your education, did you write through school, through college, through?
I didn't go to college. I hated school. I absolutely loathed school from the time I was kindergarten. I did well in grade school, hit high school and turned into a complete flake.
Right.
Managed to skate through. My dad was very disappointed. But yeah, I was always writing, and in high school, I picked up a love for plays. Read absolutely every Tennessee Williams play I could get my hands on for, I have no idea why. And of course, Shakespeare. And started writing plays in high school. And
very cool.
Took a few of those online, not online, at that time it was magazines, learn how to be a writer, took a few of those, and then got involved in theater. I moved cross country, got involved in theater, and it just kind of sat fallow for a while, but I started, because I was in theater, I started up with writing plays again. And then morphed into audio drama, which is something I've always loved.
Oh, cool.
And because I was in the theater scene, I got involved with people who were involved in audio drama. And you're in the Seattle area, so I don't know if you remember Jim French on the radio, Jim French Productions. It was you were a professional audio drama company, SAG-AFTRA. Jim was running audio dramas back in the, oh gosh. Well, Jim died in his 80s. So he was doing it a long, long time.
Sorry, that's my associate.
No, that's okay.
So you said he died when?
He died in 2017. That's when we closed the company, but the company has been revised with an old coworker, and they're still continuing on. Jim created a character called Harry Nile, and I was originally hired as a part-time bookkeeper and then just morphed in. I mean, my coworker knew that I was already writing audio drama and producing it myself. So he just said, write some Harrys, and then I became kind of a staff writer. It was myself, Jim, and Jim was getting older, so he was slowing down. That man could churn out a couple of scripts a week. I was always fascinating to him because I'm a pantser. I'm 100% pantser. I do not plot at all. And he would sketch out a little. I mean, it would just be like on the back of an envelope. I was afraid to throw out envelopes because I'd look at it, I go, Jim, do you need this? And he'd go, oh yeah, that's the story I want to do. So it was pretty cool. We were 3 people above a garage.
Wow.
And attached to a studio out in Issaquah.
That is really cool.
12 years. It was pretty cool. We had coyotes and deer and neighborhood kids, and every now and then one of the guys would go out and scream at the Douglas squirrels to shut up because we were trying to record.
And they're chittering too loudly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they do those little tiny brown and golden squirrels just
yeah, there's a lot of noise in the actual forest when you get in a deep one.
Oh yeah.
So that's very cool. Well, I love that. So what was the first thing that you published as an adult?
I've really only done one book publication, and that's no, if you're looking for a book, I worked for Script magazine, which is a Hollywood scriptwriters magazine, as an e-columnist. I don't know, 2000, maybe a little earlier. And I did some for their hardcover for, the actual magazine, and did interviews and book reviews of industry books, scriptwriters books. Oh, cool. I have read so many of those that I actually ended up writing one. But I got the job purely as a fluke. I sent in an article and said, what do you guys think? And I get a message back from the editor, and she says, what do you want to name your column? And I'm like, what? And she said, we're giving you a column. What do you want to call it? And I'm like walking around the apartment going, I got a column. How often is this column? And she said, once a month. Monthly. I'm going to have a monthly column in Hollywood.
Wow.
It was kind of goofy, So
how exciting would that be? Wow.
Well, the most exciting thing about it was attending a film conference down in Austin, Texas, and being introduced to someone, and he went, "You're Sable Jak?" And I'm like, "What? Oh God, that was the weirdest experience ever." He says, "I want to talk to you." And so it was like, oh gee, I had my 15 minutes of fame.
Oh, that is so fun.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was like, you're kidding me. So, but I did that. That was really nice because I got to interview a variety of different people and stuff. Quentin Tarantino still owes me an interview. We did that. He was in Seattle for SIFF, for Seattle International Film Festival. And we talked a little bit before. It was so easy. I mean, because I acted. So I could just put on the reporter person.
Right.
And just walked up to him, handed him my card, said, I work for Script Magazine. Can we arrange an interview? Walked away and thought, do I want to stand here and shake, or do I want to throw up? I would never do that. If I would be like the person in the corner going, oh, that's Quentin Tarantino. Okay. And that would be it. But that little press card and the business card with Script's name on it just gives you balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, it's kind of easy. And then you put on your persona, you know, so, but anyway, through all of that, Michael Weezy Productions, which creates a hell of an amount of film industry books, from writing to film to cinematography to acting, everything. I mean, it's one of the foremost. Their VP lives up here in Seattle, and I got to know him through Civ. And we were having lunch one day, and I said, why don't you guys have a fantasy book out? And this was at the height of Lord of the Rings. I said, you guys don't have an instruction on writing fantasy. And I had always been a huge fantasy fan. And fantasy fans have sat through decades of god-awful costumes and fake fur glued onto dogs to make them look like something. I mean, you know, it's just like, but we put up with it until Lord of the Rings. Well, for me, anyways, Lord of the Rings for me was like, oh my God, you know. So
yeah, it really elevated the genre.
Oh, totally. For me, again, you know, other people can argue with me, and it's just like, oh, okay, fine, that's you. But I said, you don't have a book about it, you know, and I pulled out this list of writers that they had in their stable. And I said, so-and-so would do that, and so-and-so could do this, and so-and-so could do that, because I had reviewed all their books. And he said, why don't you do it? And I went, I don't, what? You know, and he said, go home, write a proposal, send it to me, and we'll put it through. He says, give me a list of chapters. I said, how much time do I have? And he said, I'll give you a week. You know, so I sat there and I thought about it. And the best approach that I get, it's horribly outdated now. I mean, and you can't even find it, I don't think, anymore. And it was not one of their best sellers. I wish it was, but it wasn't. But I went in and I just thought, how do I do this? I am not an expert at all, but I am a reader and a viewer. And I know what I like, and I know what pisses me off. So I said, well, okay, I will do it like the articles I do for Script. So each chapter was that. And I had X amount of time to do it. And I watched roughly 3 movies a day, almost. I had a deal with a local video shop, and he just gave them to me as long as I mentioned him in the book. So I was like, that's cool, you know. And I read, and by the time I got done with the book, I was so totally burned out on what I call Eurocentric, European style fantasy, that to this day, I cannot read it or watch it. It's just like, no. And I just walk away, I can't do it. Okay. And it's horrible because, you know, I mean, I actually had to force myself to watch the first episode of Game of Thrones. I was in London at the time at the London Sci-Fi Film Festival, and that came on. And so I watched it, and it was like, can't do it. And I love Sean Bean. Mm-hmm. So I was like,
don't worry, they get rid of him really quick.
Oh, they kill him off in everything except Sharp's rifles, and those I watch over and over and over.
Okay, so you've been writing a good long while. So fast forward to Kindle Vella. Where did you hear about it?
Well, I've been doing serials more or less since 2005. I was running one on my Tumblr page for quite a while, and then I just sort of fell off and didn't do it anymore. And when the company closed, when the audio drama company closed, I just kind of didn't do anything for a little bit. You know, do I want to stick with audio drama? Do I want to try something else? I have always written spoken word because I skirted around the film business for a while too. And did a few things. The checks cleared the bank. But, you know, I thought I want to try something. I want to try prose. And that's why I did the Tumblr thing. And then I started looking at the different serials on the serial platforms online, like Wattpad, Dream, you know, Radish, all of them. Didn't like any of their contracts or anything, but then I found Tapas. And I thought, well, these guys are okay. I'll deal with these guys. So I started writing on there, got to know a few people and stuff. And in a chat one night, someone mentioned Bella, and I checked it out, and I thought, well, you know, it's Amazon. It's got legs, you know. And so I signed up right away.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, you said Tabas?
Tapas, TAPAS .io.oi. I would have to log in again. I haven't logged in for a while.
Oh,
I've still
okay.
got a couple of small things up there.
Oh, okay. So then you came in, I think Bright Morn of Isareth was your first, right?
No, I think the first thing I put up was Dead Souls doing the Samba, because that was running on Tapas, as was Bright Morn. Bright Morn was into the second volume at that point. And I took everything down and then transferred it over to Vella.
Very cool. So we have Dead Souls doing the Samba. I checked these out. That one's got 24 episodes.
Yeah, it's a short one. I did that mostly because that one's got a screenplay option on it, which has kind of been around for a little bit. The pandemic really affected that. So who knows? You know, those things happen. You know, the check clears the bank and you move on.
So what is this? What is Dead Souls doing the Samba? What's the story?
Basically, a retired assassin has bought a remote island and there's a monastery on it. And they hire him to take out a horseman of the apocalypse.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
You know,
So
it's more cerebral than it actually is. There is some action, but it's more cerebral than action packed.
so then I saw also that you have the Enchantress.
That was that both that and 5 Levels of Fear are actually audio dramas that have been recorded and are online in their recorded forms. And then I just adapted them.
Okay, so it was the Enchantress and which other one?
The other one's five Levels of Fear.
Of Fear. Okay, so both of those were audio dramas.
Yeah, those were audio dramas. Well, the Enchantress I produced, oh my God. This is where you learn where there are things you shouldn't do in life. But the 5 Levels of Fear was, oh God, what was the name? Oral Stage, I think, is the production company. But we recorded it out here at Jack Straw Studio with some very fine young actors.
Oh, cool. Okay, so somewhere out there, there's 5 Levels of Fear and the Enchantress.
Yeah.
Where you can listen to them.
Yeah, the Enchantress was kind of fun. There's a young horror artist by the name of Wednesday Wolf, who has lived in a variety of different areas in the world and has resulted in a somewhat English, somewhat something else accent with a very deep voice.
Oh.
And he was great fun to work with.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the Gigolo of DanBois Park.
Yeah, that one is the one that I was running on Tumblr in 2005. And so that one's not finished, and eventually I'll finish that one, but there's about 70, 75 chapters.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to look at 5 Levels of Fear. How many episodes do you have up of that?
Oh, I forget, actually. I think 30, 40, something like that. Oh. That's a group of urban explorers go into an old mansion and things start going weird.
Oh, cool. All right. So now Bright Morn of Isareth.
Yeah.
You said you were completely vomitously ill of Eurocentric fantasy.
Yeah.
So what is Bright Morn of Isareth?
That it is fantasy, but not Euro. It's wuxia, which is Chinese, a Chinese form of martial arts type stuff that is also fantasy. The wu means martial arts. Xia means like a itinerant warrior, wanderer that with killer martial arts skills, that kind of moves by his own moral code.
Like a Ronin.
Yeah, kind of, it dates back to like about the Han Dynasty, which is like 200 years BC to about 200 years after. It really didn't start getting called wuxia until I think it was the early 1900s. And then in the 1950s and the 1960s, a few authors, and forgive me, I forget their names at the moment, they really, Hong Kong, and I think New Zealand, they really started pumping it, pumping the genre that caught more notice by a lot of other people. So a lot of the things that you'll see the serial writers in China right now writing, there's one young lady, her name is Priest, or she goes by the name Priest. She started writing, I think, in like about 2006 or so. She's done some more modern things. She did something called Word of Honor. She does a lot of BL also, which I have not read her stuff. I've just seen the adaptations of it, and it's pretty cool. She tends to get a little more, with the things that I've seen, a little more shanxi, I can never pronounce it correctly. Xia, Xianxia, which actually brings in more Western influences of gods and demigods and dragons and stuff like that. Wuxia is basically more your martial artist who's just got super exceptional skills. So I try to adhere to that as close as possible, but there is still, I'm a Westerner, there comes in certain Western aspects. But at the same time, I'm constantly researching it so that I try to remain as true as I can.
That's cool. All right, so they're all wuxia, all volumes, obviously, if it's got
It's basically one long story.
Oh, very cool. So I saw 1 through 4.
Yeah, and I just started 5 here a couple of weeks ago.
So have you been doing pretty well on Vella with the Bright Morn?
I'm happy, but not really, and it's not mainstream, so it's not getting a lot of looks. But what I am getting are people reading all the way through it. So that's
right.
That's 400.
Awesome.
That's 415 chapters and 4,500 tokens. So
whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I'm getting people reading all the way through it, not a copious amount.
Well, I'd be very pleased with that. That is as a writer, you just can't ask for more, can you? I mean, so
to me, that's I'm writing a whole saga. I'm not writing 3 or 4 chapters.
Right. This isn't an anthology.
No, it's not.
Right. Okay.
There are things that happen in volume 1 that, even though I'm on volume 5, it's not resolved. There are things that happen in volume 1 that get resolved in 2, they get resolved in 3, they got resolved in 4. There's things that happen in 2 that don't get resolved yet, but then something else gets, so it's just kind of like an ongoing story.
Cool.
Are you familiar with C.J. Cherry?
No.
Hugo, sci-fi author, Hugo winner. She has a series out called Foreigner Universe, And she's on like volume 25 or 26 right now. And I did not realize I was doing this, but she tends to do, this is all one character, all the same characters all the way through. And there are small threads that travel through all of the things, but each book can stand sort of on its own. But she does them in groups of 3.
Wow.
And I didn't realize until I started the 4th volume, which by the way is a frame tale. I didn't realize that, but that's what I've started doing. And I can only say it's CJ's influence. She and I were going to work on a project together and it fell through.
Whoa.
At one point.
That reminds me of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series.
Yeah, they go for a long time. She's been writing for years. Yeah,
well,
she's
right.
Exceptional. She's pretty exceptional. Her stuff has actually been, because she does anthropological type work. So when she's dealing with societies on another world, she has actually had NASA reading her stuff. Yeah,
wow.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, the scientists anthropologists, they really pay attention to her work.
Man, that's neat.
She's
That's
pretty exceptional
cool.
woman.
Oh, wow. So, well, that's too bad that project fell through. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah.
So when you got into Vella, did you do any reading of Vella authors that are out there?
I started a few things, but there's so much out there that is not my cup of tea. There's good stuff, but it's just not me. It's just not what I read. Mm-hmm. So, and I've just kind of reached that point in life where if it's not something I like, I don't do it.
Right.
It's just like, people come up to me and they go, you have to read this. And I go, what's it about? And they'll say, oh, it's, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no. And they go, oh, it's really great. And I go, I'm not going to waste 3 hours,
Yeah, no, no.
Yeah. No offense. It could be perfect. It could be the absolute most perfect thing ever. But if it's not if it's not something I'm interested in, nope.
So you haven't read any Vellas out there that you
I've
feel
started
like...
a few, Cherry Stark's museum is great fun. But of course she and I back and forth quite a bit, because we both started out on Tapas. So we got to know each other there. And so a lot of times I'll see stuff before it actually goes up on Vella. She'll say, what do you think of this? Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. What about that? Or, so her museum series is a lot of fun. And then there is, of course, J.F. Lee, his 1000 Dawns, which is, it's wuxia, but it's also YA, which is basically of no interest to me. And also romance, which is also something that's not really very interesting for me. So, so I give it a poke now and then to see how it's doing.
Oh, okay. So 1000 Dawns, J.F. Lee, and Museum by Cherry Stark.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I've looked at the first 3 of a few different things, and I think there was one other thing that I actually kind of got into, but if I'm reading, I'm not writing, and I'm not researching. And that's something that's pretty much constant with me is constant research to stay as true as possible to the wuxia. I mean, I'm heavily into the Han Dynasty now, and then there's I'm really big on the detail type things. So there's a few online people that I follow with Chinese culture. So those are what's the most important to me right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Fair enough. I think I had one guest that shouted out one person. That's perfectly fine. So the next question I want to ask, and this is a good one too. If you had all the power in the world for Kindle Vella, or could do whatever you wanted to for Kindle Vella, if you were in the driver's seat, what, if anything, would you do to change it?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Absolutely nothing. I just let it run its course. The thing is there's so many platforms out there right now. And to me, the way I look at it, and feel free to say no, Amazon is testing the waters. They're just going to see. They're probably looking at all of them, and there are more. I mean, it's like every time you go online, when I first started searching for a group that I liked, because I mean, Vella is nothing new. I mean, it's new to a lot of the writers, like the KU writers, because this is like totally new, but to so many people worldwide, it's like, meh. Oh, okay, they're going to do it now. I mean, who isn't? You know, seriously. I mean, the last time when I first looked, there were like, I could find like a small handful, and now it's like, hello, let's scroll through all these people. Yes. There's a whole bunch of new ones. So, and like in China right now, a huge section of their TV shows and movies are based on web novels and serials. One of the biggest being something called The Lost Tomb, of which I am a huge fan. And they have, I think there's at least one web serial, and then there's 5 TV series. And the guy that wrote it was originally a graphic artist, and he just liked to write good stories. And he wrote this thing. It took off like a shot. He and his kids and his kids' are never going to have to work again. You know, it's just wild, you know. So, I mean, Vella is nothing new. But it's new to a lot of people. So I would just let it run. Yeah. I mean, I just let it run. Like I said, I was doing what is it, Gigolo in 2005. So it's like, for me, it was like, oh, okay, you know.
I envy the people who had a bunch of stuff just sitting around. It was like, oh, okay, I'll just throw this up.
Well, you know, I've been writing for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a lazy sod, so I'm not someone who actively sends things out. You know, it's like, okay, it'll happen when it happens. And yeah, I mean, it's like the magazine column and the book, that all just fell on me. So I've just been kind of, somewhere along the line, someone said, bless this child. I don't know, probably my stepmom. You know?
That's pretty good. I like how she got you started as a punishment. That's got to be the most unique thing.
It was pretty funny.
So on Hella Vella and on these Lawless interviews, I link all of your stories first. I always go with the Vellas first, then link those, then link up your shout outs. So before we say goodbye, is there anything that you'd like to say to the folks who are going to be clicking on your stories and reading, you know, Bright Morn of Isareth, and reading you know, your other serials, like what was the other one? 5 Levels of Fear, the Enchantress, the Gigolo of DanBois Park. There's 9 of them.
Well, they're all stuff I already had going.
Yeah, so
why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why not? People were digging grocery lists out of the closet and putting them up on Vella.
I don't know. I hope they like my stuff. You know, there is that. There's a lot of cool people out there that are writing a lot of stuff. And what I love about the serial stuff is the Wild West aspect of it. Yes. With people trying all sorts of different things. I get a little annoyed sometimes with people who say, well, you know, it has to be this way. And no, it doesn't. Not with serial work. That's part of the reason I started doing it, is because I just looked at regular publishing, and you got to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. And I just obviously from the way I was when I was a kid, was like, here's my middle finger. No, I love what the kid, and I say kids because some of the kids on Tapas were like 16, and they're willing to just balls to the wall, let's try it. And I love that, so that's why I said I just let Vela run the way it runs, because it's going to be a real learning experience for a lot of us, including me. I mean, it's what's life if you don't learn something?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that being said, we will say goodbye for today. And thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
Everybody,
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.